Welcome to the podcast, Holley Brandchaft-White.
Mhm.
You are a licensed clinical social worker. You hold a master's degree from University of Chicago, Crown Family School of Social Work, Policy and Practice. But
Mhm.
most important, what we are here to talk about is that you are a co-founder of SHFT, an innovative mental health, behavioral health startup based here in Chicago.
Yeah.
So thank you for being here, Holly, and
Thank you.
taking time. We were just talking about busy day of a business owner.
Yes. Super happy to be here. It's just, I love being able to have these kind of conversations and just kind of like spread the word. I think that what we're building is really unique. And I think both in like the actual services we're providing, but just the kind of like energy around it. So I'm just
Yeah.
happy to be chatting with you.
Yes. So let's get into it. Tell me, what is Shift and what do you guys do? What services you are provided? Because it's
Yeah.
just like we talked about a second ago. For me, it's so innovative and genius, really.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. So Shift is a mental health clinic. We're an urgent care here in Chicago, and urgent kind of in the loosest sense of the word. You know, urgency could be like I'm stressed out and got into an argument with my partner, or it could be certainly like something more high risk or where there's safety concerns. But we kind of run the gamut as far as how we can support. And it honestly came from my work mostly in emergency departments. I worked in ERs for the last 10 years and felt frustrated that so many people were going there for, relatively benign, like everyday stresses. I mean, there's definitely reasons why people should go to the ER for mental health concerns, but especially in the pandemic, working with a lot
Yeah.
of younger people, older people, kind of all ages who just needed to talk to somebody. And I felt like there has to be a better way to support, in an environment that's not, a major hospital system. How can we create an environment that is more conducive to emotional wellness and also just
Mhm.
invites kind of like, I don't know, like a more casual, relatable, accessible approach. So some of how I talk about it is almost like a blow dry bar for therapy, that it's like
Yeah.
you can just come in and talk, and if it's something
Yeah.
more significant, all of our team members are licensed therapists, but we have a lot of people who just come in to vent or to get advice or to learn about new ways to cope. So just trying to like lower the bar on what getting help could look like.
Yeah. I love the approachability aspect to it, and
Hmm.
kind of like you said, see THC of it. We
Hmm.
were just talking before we started recording that, and I was talking here on the podcast a few weeks ago. I had this really hard day, like really triggering day, and I was just thinking about it. How great it will be to talk to somebody today. I'm not in therapy currently, but it's such a
Hmm.
hassle, right? Like,
Yes.
find somebody to set up an initial conversation, see if they, you are
Good
aligned
fit.
and work good fit, etc. It just seems like a lot, and I think it's a
Mhm.
huge barrier for people, right?
Yeah.
To get help and get into the door of the therapist and
Mhm.
start those conversations.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you, and I think, not everybody needs, like, once a week or once every other week therapy. I think sometimes, it's really helpful, and a lot of people maybe acknowledge that, but there's so many people that, generally go about their day and manage their own stress, and I think, like, it's tough outside, we already know that. I think if you look on social media or turn on the news at any moment,
Yeah.
there's just, like, a heaviness in the air, and, yeah, I think like more of a like care at your own pace kind of thing. We have people who just drop in and want to talk and maybe they'll come back, maybe they don't. But I think making it flexible and even just like kind of eliminating the potential shame of like, what if I don't like my therapist and I want to cancel, but I don't really know how to change the
Yes.
relationship? Like, we don't, that's not really a worry for us. So, yeah, I think it's been very, very cool to see people take advantage and feel like, oh, I think I feel better and maybe I don't need to come back. But at least I know you're here if I do. So,
Yeah. I didn't even think about it. This is such an interesting point you are bringing it up. But I, even in my own journey with therapy, I always wanted to like talk to somebody first because I felt like I will know if we are aligned and they can fix me. You know what I mean?
yes,
Like, you can just,
yes,
and it's a human to human interaction, very deep one. So you have to be right. And I didn't even think, but I always had in the back of my mind this
yes.
fear of like, like, "Oh my god, and if we don't click, like, I will have to have this tough conversation,"
Mhm.
or you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a great point too. So you basically you can walk in, right?
Mhm.
If the spot is available and you can have a therapy session, right? Or you can schedule just couple days ahead, day ahead, or
Exactly.
if there is anything else you are guys providing or you're thinking of expanding or,
Yeah.
um
Yeah, so basically we have a few different services. The one that we're kind of talking about now is the option to, yeah, walk in, schedule ahead, schedule same day. We have a lot of people that just call and say, "Hey, do you have any availability, at 2 p.m. or whatever the case may be?" And that's for the
Mhm.
kind of like one-off. We call them chats, but like a single session. It could be 30 minutes, it could be 60 minutes. We've had people come in for like interview prep or if they're stressed during exams and like really kind of like circumstantial stuff of like, generally I'm fine, but like I'm kind of freaking out about this one thing. And then another one of our services that kind of came from the time spent in the ER is we do like urgent assessments, is what we call them, or crisis evaluations. So, if you're mid panic attack, if you're having unsafe thoughts, if you're worried about a friend or loved one who maybe has experience with going to the emergency department for mental health concerns, but kind of wants to see if, the needs can be supported in a different environment, we essentially walk through a pretty in-depth evaluation of what's going on, what sort of risk factors there might be, what social or family supports exist. And then we basically formulate a treatment plan where we would say, based on what we're hearing, we'd recommend this type of programming for you or this type of therapy.
Oh.
And send them home with discharge paperwork. So we really kind of pull, I think, the good bits that happen in an ER, but in
Yeah,
a different environment and kind of a totally different approach. And then just regular therapy and medication management. So we have a prescriber on site. And I think that's nice also because it's not too often, I don't think, that you find like prescribers and therapists in the same space. I think it just can make the work that's being done like happen in tandem and just more thoughtfully because those providers can communicate with each other. So a few different options kind of forever wherever somebody might be at in their journey.
fascinating. Tell me, because you mentioned this story with your past work, you have over a decade of experience, right? Working in ER kind of mental health setting.
Yes.
But how did it all started? Because I cannot even imagine as a, business owner myself, and I started few ventures. I cannot even imagine starting like mental health healthcare business and startup because that's like a
Yes.
complete different level. Tell us about that. So like the ER work kind of inspired it all, but was there like a specific moment that you were like, okay,
Mhm.
like let's do this, let's
Yeah.
start this because it's needed. How did it
I
all
feel like
start?
yeah, that's a good question. I feel like the seeds were kind of planted over time, like I
Mhm.
love working in emergency departments. I love kind of the fast pace of that environment. I've honestly always felt like it's been an honor to be with people when they're in such a critical moment, and I think like clinically, as a therapist, it really takes, I think, like a finesse to kind of like build trust with somebody when they're walking into the ER in crisis in like 20 seconds, to be able to gain or establish some sort of trust so you can really figure out how best to help them. I think there's just like a sharpness that comes with that. And then in the pandemic, I mean, everything was just wild working in an ER during that time and just the overwhelming amount of need and how that space really turned into more of like a primary care, setting where people are just walking in like, I just need something. I don't really know what that something is, but I know that like I don't feel great. So when those seeds were planted, but I certainly wasn't thinking that it would turn into this. And then I went back to school for an MBA, also not really thinking that it would turn into this, but more interested in my own kind of like growth and development and leadership
Mhm.
opportunities and met my business partner who, we have complementary backgrounds. She's not a therapist, but she's been in management consulting and finance for a while and started a behavioral healthcare company. And we just started to kind of brainstorm like, what would it look like to do something new? The market is really saturated with so many virtual providers, and I think
Yes.
virtual is great and serves a real need. It's definitely as far as like accessibility, but and we offer virtual care, but I think like we wanted to kind of bring it back to being in person and recognizing related to crisis that, crisis for me could look very different, from a crisis for you. And a crisis
Yeah.
is so subjective even within that, like I could be in crisis if I'm whatever, lost my keys and, I'm trying to pick up my kid from daycare and
Yeah.
that feels urgent to me even if I'm feeling safe with myself, but I'm still like freaking out. So we kind of just let ourselves daydream about what something different could look like. And it was interesting, honestly, to sort of make the case for this. Model to anybody that we talked to because I think there was I think like a healthy skepticism of like, okay, but aren't there therapists already? Like, aren't there places that do this? And to really have like a vision and try to push ahead, even when people are just kind of like wary or curious, but kind of like, I don't really know, I don't really get it, has been a big part of our adventure because we're seeing that it really does move people. And so kind of like connecting the dots between how we imagine this playing out and being able to connect with the people who need us, is just something that we're like working on every day. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, that's definitely part of the story, and then the more people that we're seeing who come in and they say, like, "It's actually kind of cool that I don't have to be, like, embarrassed," That's just the space
Yeah.
feels like it's really easy. We have a menu that kind of feels like, you're walking into whatever, like a med spa or something, and it just kind of assumes, like, "You're here to talk, we're here to talk to you," really, really normalizes it. And I think that that also is kind of like an extra layer of reassurance that whatever you're coming in with, like all of our therapists have worked in different environments.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of stuff. So, nothing that is coming up would surprise us. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, that is so interesting, and it's like I feel like it's a perfect moment for shift now because I think the kind of the shame and that comes with going therapy, it's obviously it's primarily gone, but there's
Mm-hmm.
still some barriers, right? Like it's not what it used to be, and there's a gigantic need. I think there will be a more need. Like I think we are now people are saying that we spend too much time on our mental health and there's
Mm-hmm.
just too much attention paid to that and we are snowflakes and this and that, but it comes from the fact that there used to be none, right?
Yes.
And it used to be shameful to take care of your mental health and to talk about it and to go to therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And now I think pendulum went to the other side
Yes, I
and
agree.
making it more casual. I think,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, it's so important.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Because
think
it's like with
it's
any other, right? Any other doctor, we go to check our
mm-hmm.
bodies, to check our teeth,
Mm-hmm.
and we should literally regularly go and talk to somebody about our mental health, like how we are
Yes.
doing, even if it's good, right? Like
Yes.
I go to check up for my body every year, and even though
Yes.
my metrics are great, my results are great, I still go because I want to
Yes.
know that it's
Because you want
great.
to
I want to
maintain.
know, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and I honestly, like, I think of a lot of what we're doing, and this is maybe on just on one extreme, but, like, I kind of think of what we're doing as a form of suicide prevention, honestly, because I think so much of like, before something becomes a crisis and you feel like I am like up to my eyeballs, I cannot manage anymore. Like, I feel like I urgently need some support. There are these moments in between where it's accumulating, right? Where like I had a stressful week and then, oh my gosh, I found out this news and it just pushes somebody over the edge. So, if we can intervene earlier and just say, like, yeah, I
yeah,
think that there's something to be said about going through your day to day and managing stress, but like that doesn't have to mean that it's okay or that it's normal, that there are ways to find support in the form of what we're doing that makes it so that you can kind of get little bits of support along the way and you don't have to be alone. And I just appreciate that part of it because I know like in my own life there would have been so many times, over the last like 15, 20 years where I
yeah.
would have said like, yeah, if I could just like walk into a place and talk for like 25 minutes and then go about my business and meet up with friends and get coffee or whatever, really casually, like that sounds great.
Yeah, and somebody who is like not emotionally involved, like your friends, maybe your
Mm-hmm.
parents or whoever or partner, and trained in helping you addressing those things and having tools and tricks and tips for you. Yeah, totally different story. But it's interesting also what you're saying because obviously like the part of potential suicide prevention. But
Mm-hmm.
for example, with me, when I after I found you guys and was thinking about that day, I was like, I'm not going to call suicide suicidal line because I'm not suicidal, right?
Mhm.
But on the other side, I didn't wanna go to ER because it's not a body issue. I knew it's not a body issue, and it's
Mhm.
like, I'm going to ER and going to say what? Like, I have a really rough day. You know what I
They're
mean?
like,
I feel
"Okay,
very
we'll get you
I
in."
feel very triggered by my old stuff. Everything
Yeah.
came out at once at me, and I just feel exhausted, and I feel like I'm just struggling. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes, yes,
so
yes.
it's like this in between also that you
Mhm.
are like, there is nobody to really go to,
Yeah.
and if you don't have established practice, and even if you do, like, you can call your
Same
therapist at
day.
any, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
not, yeah.
Yeah.
Super interesting. Okay, so you said that you touched on this idea that initially when you were with your partner developing and kind of imagining
Mhm.
shift and the idea you came across some hesitation, right? That there are therapists, there's ER,
Mhm.
but what other things, along the way as an entrepreneur, as a new as a startup owner, what other things surprise you or
Ooh.
give you a challenge or maybe opposite? We're like,
Yeah.
wow, this is so great to to
To
create
encounter.
business. That's the great part about it. Was there anything
Yeah.
else?
I think that, like, I mean, I think putting something out there, I think a hard thing or a difficult thing is, like, because we are trying to introduce or are introducing a different approach, there's just so much education that has to come with that, just educating the public or schools or hospitals or other therapists on, like, what the value is of what we're doing, that there is so much opportunity to collaborate with those spaces. And I think part of that makes me think of, how often we have more of like a scarcity mindset of like, um, I don't know. I think just, is there room for all of us? Is there room for another way to do something? And I tend to, just like in my regular life, other parts of my life, move with like a curiosity versus, just like an
Yeah,
openness to like, I don't know, that sounds really cool. Or even if I don't understand, that doesn't mean that I can't learn about it. And so I think we've had to really drive that sort of approach of like, let us share with you, what we're doing, and please come in and see the space and meet our team, and really kind of like trying to bring people into sort of like a movement that we're wanting to build. So that's been, I think, great. And also just, it's hard. It's hard to kind of like make a case when we, see the value every day in what we're doing, and we get feedback from people who say like, I've been curious about therapy, but I haven't really known where to start. I mean, that's just so validating. It's such a beautiful thing to have, that be the outcome
yeah,
for somebody. But then it's also hard to be in spaces where it's like, well, I don't really know. Like, I'm like, I
yeah.
don't know,
People
come
are
see
like,
for yourself,
yeah,
see for
people are too
yourself.
new, too
Yeah.
innovative. It's like they don't understand it fully, and then when we don't understand, we usually
Push
are
away or
hesitant. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, so
Mm.
that's been kind of I think like a rose and a thorn or a petal and a thorn, like a high and a low of the situation. Um, one thing that was interesting was we got a lot of feedback kind of early on that like, is there a way to kind of pilot this? Could you do like a proof of concept for this without kind of going all in? And that we really had to say no to early on because there wasn't really a way to kind of create the environment, and certainly not, I didn't feel like, to do the clinical work thoughtfully. We're doing some pretty heavy assessments some days where people really have complex stuff and, pretty real safety issues going on in their lives. And, I mean, it's a little bit cheeky of me to say, but like to set up a folding table and be able to do that, like have a pop up for this, it's just wouldn't really offer like the whole kind of like package. And so that just
Yeah,
really
'cause it's like an
required us.
experience, right? Like with you guys,
Exactly.
it's an experience. Yeah.
Exactly, the whole experience. And I wouldn't want to, you know, cheat that experience either, because I think just all the bits together really make it come together. So that just required us, I think, to be bold enough, brave enough to be like, okay, we're doing it. We're gonna work really hard on getting financing and find a location. And so we've done that, and it's been terrifying, to just take that leap. But again, like every day that we see somebody who would have gone to the ER but felt like they could come to us, or has never talked to somebody. And, we had a 70-year-old the other day who came in, and I don't know, it's just been a really, really beautiful thing to see the cards fall where they are, and, yeah, so those are 2 things that come to mind. That's a good question.
Yeah, and I saw, guys, that you are accepting Blue Cross Blue Shield, so you are accepting like a regular major
Mhm. Commercial
insurance,
insurance, yeah,
which
yeah,
is
we went in
important,
network
right?
with
Because those
insurance.
sessions can be expensive, right?
Mhm, mhm,
But
exactly.
listen, maybe there is something in it, Holly. Hold to it because when I was in corporate world, I would give something for like once a month to somebody. We used to have a woman. Look at it's not comparable, but we
Tell
used
me.
to have this amazing management who once a month there was a woman who came to do nails, and you could like schedule an appointment and do nails in the office. She had a separate
Yes,
office. I know, right? Like rich corporate America.
love.
No, it was because then you don't have to get out. But it's like I would give something for, therapists, a pop-up to come in and to like de-stress and
Yes,
talk to somebody, like once a
yes.
month, like, hey, the therapist is coming if you feel stress, if you feel
Mm.
anxiety, if you feel pressure. Listen, maybe there will be a shift track.
Wait, I love that. I love that, I
Like,
love that.
there are tracks to
Yes.
draw blood. Maybe you provide an experience of like a setting, you
Yeah.
never know.
That's
Maybe there
honestly
is
a great
something.
idea. That's a great idea because I do think that, like, going to where people are, and even when we
Yes,
have people come in for workplace stress and we think of, like, people who work in the restaurant industry, that is such a stressful environment. People who are in any, space within business and consulting, I mean, that's like a notoriously stressful, workspace,
yeah,
or, banking or working in hospitals. I mean, I can definitely see the value of, like, listen, we're setting up shop for a few hours, like, come by, talk to us. We're here and available. I think wherever we can meet people, I think it just makes it like it's hard to say no. It's like, I don't know, I've thought about it. Well, okay, we're here now. So
yeah, yeah,
yeah, I like that.
definitely. And corporate America can be brutal. So,
Yeah.
oh no, love it. Is are you thinking for the future? What are you envisioning? What is your? You don't have to share it if you don't want to with us. But is there anything? Or do you think about like psychedelic therapies or incorporating
Cool.
those? Or like, is there anything like a next big step or
Mm-hmm.
anything you are envisioning and
Yeah.
dreaming of even further for Shift?
Yeah. I think it's so funny because we do talk about, just like expansion and, next locations. And also, I'm like, okay, wait, I want to make sure that we are, fleshing out like all the bits of what we're doing right now here at this location in Chicago. But, the more that I've put up, on social media and just like the more conversations we have, it seems like what we're doing again, like really resonates with people all over the place. And in the past few weeks, we've had, people from Ohio call and ask if we can provide care. And from Massachusetts, and I don't know, I mean, that has been I think it just is more of a sign or a signal that, like, what we're doing, and I think the way that we're doing it, seems to really move people. Like, my goal, I mean, I'm just a therapist person, and I don't wouldn't call myself a content creator, but I felt like the best way to invite people in to have a shared vision for what this is just to put myself and our space and our team out there, but in a way that really tried to move, thoughtfully away from, like, too much of a curated video, something that feels really, like, overly
Yeah,
polished and produced, so it's just, like, me and a mic just walking around,
and I love
and
it.
that
That's
is
how I found you. Yeah, and
yeah, yeah,
you're
and that's,
doing
like,
such a great
what it
job to
feels
make it
like.
approachable. Yeah.
Yes, exactly, that's what it feels like when you're here. So, I think that that also must do something for people. So, I mean, we certainly think about, opening additional locations, whether that's, like, in Chicago suburbs or, other states, and I mean, a big part of what we're doing now that I'm wanting to expand on is like, in the beginning when we were talking about how to build this, I think it's like the social worker in me and just having worked in, different communities and community mental health. I really wanted this to feel as much like a community oriented space, even with it being a private company. So for example, like we had like a creative wellness event a few months ago where we had like a tabling event and we had all different vendors come in and it was free and we just invited people into the space and we had a DJ and then we also had an art exhibition where we did an open call for art where different people in the community, random people we hadn't met, submitted their art and we have it hanging in the space. All of it is for sale and all commission goes to those artists and we had a little reception. we had a talking event, like a workshop, a fireside chat for somebody who is doing research on like the state of modern day dating, just like looking at cool things to be hosting here that maybe are adjacent to mental health, but also maybe not, just because I think it can serve as like a safe space for whatever the case may be and bring people together. So that feels like a real priority. Like, how can we keep that energy up and kind of build a social calendar almost of, in the fall, Shift is going to be hosting whomever, a musician. We talked about doing like a poetry workshop. So that feels like high priority because I think it just adds to normalizing the space and like you don't have to come in for
I
an
love
appointment.
this.
Yeah, yeah, I
I
love
didn't
that part
even
of it.
think about it like to angle it this way of kind of building a community because that speaks to kind of your brand and the promise of like
Hmm.
this being very approachable, right?
Yes,
That's yet another element because when you think about going to, let's not mention ER, but even to your regular therapist, it's like you're going to go there and it's going to be potentially hard and tough, or maybe lighter, but still there will be some work, right? Like it's just this connotation of like health struggle
yes.
work through, right?
Or even putting it in
Versus
a box, it's like, I don't know. I mean,
yeah,
I love the
yeah,
therapists I've had, but I don't know that I've thought of it as like going for anything besides the purpose of therapy. And um yeah, I'm trying to just reimagine like what is the space that my friends and I would want to go to? Like, oh, there's a free music thing. That sounds great. Oh, it happens to be this other space that does this cool thing. That's also a cool thing, and I think yeah, just thinking like how can we normalize, normalize, normalize? I think it's just by making it a multi-purpose space where we don't require somebody to check in at the front desk or, why are you here? You
yeah,
can't go back. We have people all the time who are like, I want to see the art. Okay, great, you should walk around and see the art, and hopefully you come back if you need something, or at least people know that we're here, when they need something.
yeah. And also when you think about mental health, it's the community portion of it is such a crucial element, right?
Yeah.
Building anybody's
Yeah.
stable
Yeah. I think
mental
people,
good health.
people come and, they said, like, can I just come and cry on the couch? And I think, again, making it just feel like, yes, we are a space that exists and wherever you're at, in what you're looking for, I think that we can meet a lot of those needs. So, yeah.
Got it. Awesome. And you accept HSA and FSA?
We do. We do. Yeah. Yeah.
Those are important information.
It's super important.
I
Yeah.
may I may stop by. I was thinking to stop by. I was in downtown this week, but
Anytime.
yeah, why not? Maybe I have to like rework through this a
Yes.
few weeks ago this event still.
Yeah.
Um okay, is there's any more, it can be business related, it can be
Mhm.
not business related, anything, lately that you are obsessed with? Are you helping you run your business or a podcast or a book or a practice or even mental health practice? I don't know. Is there's any, I always ask my guests because we learn from each other so much and everybody always
Yeah.
brings such a fascinating things.
Ooh, I don't know if this is the most exciting response, but I just rely a lot on my community. I don't know. I mean, I think that for doing something new and feeling like I myself manage a lot of anxiety of like, are we doing the best we can? How can we be more thoughtful? Is this something that will succeed? It's hard to like put in, I'm sure you can imagine, but just like putting all of your energy into something, I think that feels like the only way to really be able to do something here, to really be able to thrive and like build this into something very special. And also that requires you to put in everything, and that's really, really hard. So, I think the biggest resource for me right now has been, I think, just community, people around me who are doing interesting and different things, that are open to doing interesting and different things, whether that's like actual founders or, just I think people who think more creatively and are open to the possibility that anything is possible. And um, because I think the more that I surround myself with those people, it's just like,
Oh, yeah. Like I think starting anything new. Yeah. Yeah. Listen, you can do it. This is a really innovative, great, genius idea. And now, when we talk more about this community element that you are building, I think you guys building something really, really special. I'm going to visit for a visit. Why not? Would love to do that. I just was fascinated. Again, we met via TikTok, and again, your approachability and you talking about it. And I was like, the more I read and went to your website, and I was like, this is fascinating. This is great. This is what is needed. This is yet another step in thinking about mental health in a different way, more innovative, and from a different angle. Yeah, you're going to be just fine. Trust me. My wooty part. Dr. Holly, thank you so much for this conversation. Thank you guys for what you are doing. I think it's, again, I can't express it enough. Like, I'm just in awe and fascinated about the idea. So that's why I wanted so much, so badly to bring you on, and thank you for finding time for me and my listeners. Thanks so much.